Hey everyone, it's me, Walkz, and today we are here to listen to some scary true stories that I've been reading from the Ask Reddit post. I'll be sure to leave a link to it in the description below, so enjoy. I was in Minot, North Dakota with my old band. Our tour van blew a head gasket and we were stuck there for a few days. Everyone was too tired on day 2, but I was wide awake. I walked for a bit and make it to some scummy bar. I'm obviously not from around there, and nobody is saying a word to me. After 2 beers, I start to get tad nauseous and dizzy. I put my head in my hand and I try to let it pass, but it keeps getting worse. Suddenly, a voice says, "You'll feel pain tonight." I jump and look up, and a tall, roughly 40-year-old man is walking to the bathroom, turns back and glances at me. I called my friends and got the fuck out of there. I slept for 12 to 13 hours and felt awful and loopy the next day. I was roofied. Number 2. I lived in a small college town and my apartment complex was walking distance from the bar in the downtown area. One weekday night, I stepped out on our front porch to smoke a cigarette or two. I was up late studying. I brought my textbook with me and sat downstairs while I smoked. A girl who I never met but who lived one apartment over but down on the ground floor came home from downtown. She was by herself and you could tell from her walk she had been drinking. She got in her apartment and barely got the door closed before some guy who came out of nowhere knocked on her door. She opened and I noticed he introduced himself, which is weird because it was after 2:30 a.m. Who comes up to a strange girl's apartment at that time? So I decided to stay outside and pay attention. They ended up talking over 10 minutes. She later acknowledged how weird the situation was, but did not know how to end the conversation. He would do the creepiest things, like he reached up and stroked her hair at least 3 times, and would try to slowly inch his way closer to her and the door. I made a point of being loud with my textbook so he would know I was there, and he disappeared as eerily as he had come. We called the cops, and days later they had the girl and me sit with a sketch artist. As soon as the sketch was made public, floods of calls came in. Guy turned out to be a serial rapist who followed lone girls home from bars and pretended to be a cab offering them a ride. This girl just got lucky because lived so close to the bars. He didn't get a chance to pull the cab routine. Number 3. When I was little, my mom would take me to Kmart and let me wander around the toy section while she shopped. This was normal in the 70s. One day, as I was playing Simon Says, an old man walked up to me and was making small talk while I played. He eventually told me to come with him and took me by the hand. He walked right down the main center aisle of the store right towards the exit sign in the back. As we crossed the last row, I looked to the right and I saw my mom at the end of the row. I told him I saw my mom and I had to go. I pulled away my hand and ran down to her. I didn't tell her what happened because I didn't want to get in trouble for going with a stranger. It was several years later that I realized that I had probably narrowly avoided being molested, kidnapped, or worse. Number 4. When I was a kid, I was always the last kid picked up by the bus driver to go to school. One day, I was waiting for the bus by myself, and a bus with no kids pulled up. The bus driver smiled and told me to hop on. I just had a bad feeling. I said, "Where are the other kids?" He said, "We will go get them now. Just get on." He got more and more pushy but didn't do anything crazy. I just kept saying no and he shrugged and left. The real bus pulled up a few minutes later. I went to school and my parents didn't know until I mentioned it that night. Looking back, they were pretty worried. I remember them scrambling to make a few phone calls. Number 5. I went camping with some friends on a hill a few kilometers out in the woods from one of the guys' house. There's a few hiking 4-wheeling trails in the area that led up to the hill, so it's known by the locals. It was about midnight. We had a fire going and we were just sitting around having a good time. Then the guy, there was 4 of us, sitting opposite of me yells, "Who are you?" I turn around and there's this man, about 6 feet tall, staring at us from the edge of the woods with a big rock in his hand. One guy knocked an arrow in the compound bow we had. The guy across from me grabbed the hatchet, and I pulled a knife off my belt. We had no clue what we were doing, but the guy wouldn't say anything to us. He eventually just backed into the woods. No sleep was had that night, and we kept a very large fire going. Number 6. When I was about 10 years old, me and my family of 6 lived in an extremely small apartment, 2 bedrooms upstairs, and then the living room. When I was tired of my siblings, I would sleep downstairs. One night, I am lying on the couch, facing the front door. I'm watching the sky through the window by the door when a face shows up in the window illuminated by a lighter. I freeze. The face goes away. I'm pretty relieved, thinking it was maybe our druggy neighbors, seeing if my parents were still awake. When it shows up again, I try to scream, but when I open my mouth, nothing comes out, not a sound. The person then kicks in the door and walks in the room. He sees me, smiles, and goes towards the kitchen. As he comes out of the kitchen with a knife, my dad makes it down the stairs, and the guy books it out of there. I still can't sleep easily on couches to this day. Number 7. It was very early morning, late at night, whatever you want to call it. Around 5 a.m. still dark. My dad and brother and I were in the car, driving to the mosque. On the way there's this dimly lit road with a forest on both sides, and a bend that made it difficult to see. Bear in mind this isn't a residential area. There isn't even a sidewalk, and the nearest intersection is a good kilometer either way. So we're driving. We get to this bend, and just before it, we see a figure sort of waving us down. They were dressed kinda odd, but I figured it was some sort of running outfit. I don't want to say it was glowing or reflective because I don't fully remember, but it just made me assume it was some sort of running outfit. Couldn't make out his face or anything about him other than his clothing. So he's waving us down dramatically. My dad slows down but doesn't really think anything of it. As we turn along the road, we see a car like right freaking there. It was just out of view before the curve in the road, so we would have definitely hit it if my dad didn't slow down. Dad stops, quickly checks on the driver of the car to make sure he's okay, then doubles back for some reason, maybe to thank the guy who warned us. He drove back quite a ways, no one on either side of the road. It was about 60 seconds from initially seeing the guy to turning around to where he was. No time for him to really go anywhere. Thanks for watching. Be sure to leave a like and a favorite and maybe subscribe for more scary true stories. And if you have a story to tell, be sure to leave in the comment section below and I'll be sure to read it. Who knows, maybe your story will make it to my video. This is Walkz, and this is a goodbye for now.